Hello everyone, my name is Doğa and I'm a second year molecular biology and genetics student at Bilkent University. Today I'm going to present you my Physics 101 lab project. So the aim of my experiment is to calculate the acceleration values for different types of inclined planes with different angle values. Before moving on to my experiment setup, first I want to introduce the materials that I used while performing my experiment. First, I used an electronic balance, a wooden block, 3 different types of surfaces with different kinetic friction coefficients, which were wooden surface, glass surface, and copper surface, and finally, I used a protractor to be able to identify the angle of the inclined planes. I started my experiment by measuring the mass of the wooden block, and I repeated this process 3 times to avoid random errors. And here you can see the values of my mass measurements of the wooden block. After the mass measurements are done, I arranged my experiment setup, which you can see here. First, I started with the wooden surface and adjusted it as an inclined plane and placed the protractor on the wooden inclined plane. Then I placed the wooden block to the very end of the inclined plane and lifted the plane until the wooden block starts to move. When I see the first movement of the block, I stopped it lifting it and recorded the value on the protractor. Here you can see my first try and my first value. And to be sure that I got the correct results, I repeated this process 3 times and noted the angle value as alpha. After that, I repeated the same procedure for alpha plus 10 and alpha plus 20 values. After I'm done with the wooden plane, I repeated the exact same procedure for copper and glass planes. After I finished my experiment in the lab, I transferred all the forces acting on my wooden block to a free body diagram as shown. Then, according to my results, on the y-axis, there are only normal force and the y component of the weight of the wooden block. Since there is no acceleration along the y-axis, these two values should be equal to each other. However, on the x-axis, there is x component of the weight of the wooden block and the kinetic friction. Then it can be seen that these forces create an acceleration. So I applied Newton's second law and ended up with the equation shown in the black rectangle. I applied this equation to all alpha, alpha plus 10, and alpha plus 20 values for each plane. And finally, as you can see here, I drew 3 different graphs for each surface according to my calculations. And this was the end of my experiment. Thank you for watching.